Good morning or good afternoon to Year 10 pupils, Form 5. You're either some of my pupils and you're watching this because I've flagged it up with you, or you happen to have stumbled across it in your last minute preparation for your English literature exam on Monday morning. So wishing you all the best for that. This goes along with a video that I did yesterday, which walks through an extract from a paper that I created yesterday for my pupils, just as a last chance to have a go in their revision at practicing how to plan and make notes for the Macbeth. This is particularly targeted at pupils doing Edexcel GCSE English literature. I'm being really brave and having a go at this because there's not a huge amount out there that targets Edexcel. Most of it seems to be for AQA. So we are trying to rebalance that a little bit. However, this is not useless if you are on a different exam board. There is still some help here with some of the skills that you will need. So this is all about how you can try and target full marks on your Section A, Little Part A, Macbeth answer, the AO2 analysis. Just to explain, if you're not Edexcel, our literature Macbeth answer is split into two parts. 20 marks for an analysis of the language and structure of the extract, 20 marks for the essay all about the whole of the text and one of the themes. So this is particularly for the first part, the 20 marks for language and structure analysis. This is really good as well, practicing for your language papers, where you have to analyse the way that the writer uses language and structure across an extract that you haven't seen before. All the skills are very similar. So how can you get full marks? Well, the first thing, which I'm always talking about, is make sure you understand the question. Here's the question that I put on the paper I created yesterday. Explore how Shakespeare presents the character of Macbeth in this extract. Nothing unexpected there. It's not an unusual question. It's come up twice in the last few years. It's not likely to come up on Monday necessarily, but it will be a character during the extract, or a relationship between two characters in all probability. If it's something else, then you just go with what you see on the day, and remember, they've given you the extract, so you don't have to panic because it's there in front of you. So the question is asking you to explore. That means to go through in as much detail as you can in the time given, and make sure you talk about as much as you can possibly do in as much depth as you possibly can. Say less in more detail and more depth, remember, than trying to say a lot more and skim the surface. So when it's asking you to explore how Shakespeare presents, it's asking you what devices, structure devices, language devices, does the writer use to create effects for the reader? If you're not sure what that means, pause this video, make yourself a list of structural devices and language devices that you would talk about on the language paper 1 when you're exploring question 3 for Edexcel, questions 2 and 3 for AQA. How do they create meaning for the reader? So just pause, write down all of those. If you can't think of any, make sure you go away and find some out. I'll give you a clue. Some language devices: alliteration. Does that ring a bell? Structural devices might be repetition and rhythm. Would be beginnings, middles and ends. Narrative voices, things like that. In the orange box then, what they are asking you to do with that is think about how they make you think and feel as you read those words, and why do they do that? The writer is always making choices. They're always using particular words and particular structures deliberately. It's not an accident. And they're doing that because they think those are the best words in order to have an impact on you as a reader. So you need to think about why those words and those structural devices are doing that. What is it about them? And then the focus in the green there, the focus that you have to write about. If you stray away from that, you start not getting marks. They won't mark it down, but they'll just ignore what you said. So if you start writing about something that is not Macbeth in answer to this question, it'll just get ignored. So it's a waste of your time. Everything you say needs to relate to Macbeth. You can write about another character in the scene, but you need to say how it shows us something about the character who is the focus. Okay. So how can you get full marks? Remember to plan carefully. Now, I always drill my pupils, you know this, at least 5 minutes. And I always say be brave, go up to 10 minutes. And don't forget, if you have extra time, add your extra time to this as well as your writing time to explore the extract. Don't write anything at all until you have read that extract really, really carefully and you have looked for lots of things to say. Now, if you do that, you're actually going to be buying yourself time, because bullet point 2, don't be tempted to dive right in. If you just start writing as soon as you've read the question without spending time on the extract, you're going to end up scrabbling around for lots of things to say, and you'll waste time. You'll keep going backwards and forwards to the extract looking for things. You will have spent at least 5 minutes and possibly more of your time looking for stuff. So you might as well do it in a concentrated chunk at the beginning so that you can just write really fluently, and you will know that extract really well when you start writing because you've read it loads. Now, how can you get full marks? Now, make plenty of notes. If you haven't seen this extract, pause now and go into the YouTube and find this extract. It is going to be saved in there for you. There's also a link there to the video where I walk through this extract for you. Alternatively, you could just print this screen and have a look at this extract, or find it in your own copy of Macbeth. It's from Act 2, Scene 2. It's 30 lines, which may be slightly longer than they'll give you on Monday. They might only give you 20 to 25 lines, but it's somewhere between 20 and 30 lines that they're likely to give you. And you can focus really, really carefully just on that extract. What you need to do is highlight things, make notes, scribble, look at words, and I'll leave you to go through the video if you want to, or you can pause now and do it all by yourself. Just spend some time looking at the words there and working out what it's telling you, how it's presenting that character of Macbeth. What are you seeing? Okay, if you really want to hit full marks, you've got to know what the mark scheme actually means. And I'm just going to highlight a few things here for you on the mark scheme. Now, one of the things on the mark scheme, if we're going to hit band 5 and get full marks, it's got to be what we call a cohesive evaluation. It's got to be a cohesive evaluation. I'm sorry, I'm trying to highlight it and it's not working. A cohesive evaluation in band 5 there. Now that means that it's really joined up. Cohesive means it's linked, it's glued together. Think adhesive, it glues together. Cohesive, it's all together across the whole of your answer. Everything you say makes sense and links. An evaluation, you're saying how successful it is. You're judging the quality of it. The interrelationship of language and structure. How does the repetition of a particular word have an impact because of the meaning of the word? How does the way that a character interrupts another character have an impact on the way we see about the character's thinking and feeling? How do all of those things have an effect on the reader and make them think and feel? Now, that last bullet point there, if you don't remember to use really high-level subject terminology, you will go to the bottom of the band rather than the top of the band. Dropping in as many of the subject terminology that you are confident to use is going to get you good marks. If you're not sure what a word means, don't use it, because if you get it wrong, that's going to drop you down the band as well. You're better off not to use it than wrongly use it. And remember, please don't just go bird spotting. Don't sit in a shed looking out and ticking a list of hyperboles, similes, alliterations. There's no point naming them if you don't say what they do. Just integrate them, call what it is the right name, and then talk about it and what it does. There's no point putting it in if you haven't actually said what the effect is. Okay, so how can you get full marks? Using a strong essay framework. You can do this for all of the AO2 analyses on the language and the literature papers. So start with an overall view of what is happening in the extract. Come up with one idea that threads all the way through the extract. Look for something. They will always choose an extract where you can see something that works the whole way through, and all different students will come up with different ideas. So throughout the extract, Shakespeare presents the character of Macbeth as someone who is. What's he like? What do we see him do? How does he seem to feel? How's he acting and reacting all the way through this extract? Is he reliable? Is he confident? Is he noble? Or is he frightened? Is he falling to pieces? Is he in fight mode? Or is he terrified? Come up with something that's overall. Then go with your 3 minimum paragraphs of immediately at the start of the extract, later on in the extract, or as the extract continues towards the end of the extract. You could slip another one in and say at the very end if that is relevant. So Macbeth ends the section as or by. And then repeat at the end, just summarise all your ideas throughout the extract. And here I'm arguing that Macbeth's remorse and guilt is very clear. You'll see in my answer, which is also in the YouTube channel. So I'm going for one idea the whole way through and arguing it. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to have a little look at 2 paragraphs that I've written. The full answer is in the YouTube channel, and you can see how I'm trying to hit the top marks with the way that I write about the language and the structure. Okay, writing cohesive evaluation. Now what I've actually done there is highlighted in green for you the high level terminology. Alliteration, sibilant. The word ironic is terminology because it's understanding one of the effects of the language. These are words you know how to use, but if you're using them correctly and they're embedded in, then they are being used really well. They hit the band 5 for the quality. You can see there I've got close focus on a tiny detail of the language and structure. Here I'm looking at hangman's hands as a particular expression, and I'm looking at that alliteration of the H combined with the sibilants of hangman's hands, and you've got that hissing sound with the and I'm talking about the fact that it's making it difficult for Macbeth to even say it because you've got the H sound going trying to breathe out of him. You could say even more than I've said there if you want to, but you can start to see how that's cohesive evaluation of the way that language and structure are interrelated, because it's the repetition of a sound, which is structural, along with the sound itself, which is language, working together to have an impact. In the blue there, it makes the audience feel, or the reader feel, that he either cannot look at his own hands or can only stare at them as he fights to get the words out. And everything I'm saying is backing up that idea that it's difficult for him to say. And then I've pointed out that it's ironic because at a hanging there wouldn't be any blood, so perhaps it's revealing his knowledge of how terrible his traitor's death is going to be, and that's eating away at him. Later on his wife calls it filthy witness, which he's going to wash from his skin with that word filthy. And I could say even more about the word filthy if I had time there, suggesting dirt and contamination. I haven't done that there, but I have explained that it's an admission of the guilt that they both bear. Maybe Lady Macbeth is starting to realise her part in his downfall. It can never be washed clean. Let's have a look at a second paragraph, and again you see this. So the high level terminology, I've got even more terminology here. We've got imagery juxtaposed, lexical field opposed, binary opposites. Please don't throw the word "it's a juxtaposition" in there, okay? It's not a juxtaposition. The juxtaposing refers to things being in close proximity to each other. So don't write that something is a juxtaposition. The writer uses the juxtaposition of 2 words to create an impact, and you need to then write what that impact is. My pet hate. Now, blue there, the effect on the audience. The yellow there, close detail, close focus on something small, and that cohesive evaluation. I'm linking the idea of sleep and murder together, and saying that that's Macbeth saying that he is remorseful but also beginning to go mad. I've then got that close look at the word brain sickly, which fits into a lexical field of sickness, which opposes the healing of knitting up the unravelled sleeve of care. I've then gone into that really fine detail there about sleep being innocent. I could say more about innocent if I wanted to, and I haven't done there. That knit suggests healing as a bone knits together. The unravelled sleeve is like a knitted item that's got big holes in it starting to pull apart. I've then gone into really fine analysis about the way that language is working, that although it's soft and beautiful to hear, it picks out the terrible state of Macbeth's damaged soul, creating a contrast to his nature of his crimes. And it becomes almost spell-like because it's so soft and enticing and witchy. And maybe that again is linking him to the supernatural and witchcraft that's led him to this terrible position that he's in. Okay, you can read the whole of this particular example. I promise you I wrote this in 20 minutes. Now I do type extremely fast because I have joint fatigue, so I have typed for a very long time and I can pretty much touch type. But if you are handwriting, you could also write extremely fast. You should be able to write at least 800 words in the 20 minutes that you can allow yourself to write if you are aiming for your level 5 mark. Obviously, if you are struggling to get that far, you're probably going to write a little bit less in that time. But so long as you're aiming for a couple of paragraphs with this level of detail, even if you write less, you are still showing that ability to analyse highly. And although they might not give you the band 5 because you haven't quite written enough to get a full range, you should be able to get out of band 3 and into band 4 for close and detailed, well-developed analysis. Okay, this is just a quick overspot. I'm not expecting you to be able to see this in one go, but you could screenshot this and print this if you can't get hold of that full extract, so that you've got that there. What I'm just showing for you is an overview that I've integrated huge amounts of quotation from the extract. I've put as many as I can in, not just 3 words, and lots of terminology. You can see there, terminology in green, quotations in grey, just peppered through the whole extract. Everything I've said has been backed up with a quotation in grey, and there's lots and lots of subject terminology all the way through. Some of it's simple, just the word repeats. Foreshadows, formal language, tension, climax, they're very, very simple words. Alliteration is getting a little bit more technical. Exclamatives, sibilants, and then of course the really technical things like foreshadowing, juxtapose, lexical field, binary opposites, assonance, those kind of words as well. So they're not just your basic bog standards, but they're not all just really whizzy high-flying words as well. Remembering to use a good range of terminology is important, and if it's relevant to your answer, then that's where you're going to get those good marks. So don't forget, close focus on language and structure. You are expert in this. You've been being trained in this for years and years and years, how to analyse language and structure for your language papers and for your literature papers, 4 different exam papers where you do the same skill. Do use an acknowledged framework. Talk about throughout the extract or overall in the extract. Talk about at the beginning, in the middle, towards the end, and then come back to throughout or overall in the extract, because that keeps you tightly focused. Try to use your high-level terminology, but don't use words you don't understand, because you won't get any marks if you get it wrong. And in fact, you start to make the marker doubt you a little bit because you don't understand what you're saying. And remember, don't simply retell what happens in the extract as a story, because you'll limit yourself to level 2 for that. You'll still get some reasonable marks because you will be in level 2. But if you keep retelling the story, you're going to reduce your mark down to level 2 or possibly the bottom of level 3. You've got to explain how the language makes the reader think and feel, and why it does that if you want to get into level 3 and above. So just remember, I found this yesterday for my Form 5 as their final quote of the day inspiration. I couldn't find anybody it was attributed in, so I apologise if you're sitting there going, I said that. It was this great quote: I am ready and prepared and looking forward to the chance to show what I know. Go into that exam on Monday knowing you're ready and prepared, and show off. Show those markers all the things that you've learnt about these texts over the last 2 years, or possibly 3 if you're on a 3-year pathway. Good luck, and I'm hoping to record some blessings for my children as a reverend. I will be offering them a prayer every day for the exam period. Do tune into those if you think that that would help you calm and be ready. Take care.